Hi, how you doing? Welcome to episode 58 of the Morning Podcast. I'm so excited to be here once again, as always. So today, guess what? As I thought back to, how far we've come this year, I just realized, it's in the month of August. There's been, this is the 8th month. And as I just thought about how far we've come, something it dawned on me that there are so many things that God has called me to do, like so many things that I should have accomplished this year. And I thought to myself, what is it that has been stopping me from accomplishing them? And so the phrase really dropped in my heart, and that phrase is no more excuses. I don't know if you heard me. I said no more excuses. That's my title for today's podcast. And so no excuses allowed at all. And as I thought of that, really, I just want to challenge you. That's my thing too. So I don't want to challenge us. And I want to challenge you all. And if I ask you that same question for a lot of things that God has called you to do this year, how many of them have you actually accomplished? How many are you accomplishing? How many have you, however, we put you on the back burner because of certain reasons? Sometimes we can't even tell what the reason is. But I want to just bring into us today some of the reasons why we don't actually accomplish what God has called us to do. And I just want to kind of look at some of these things that seek to stop us. As I challenge you with no more excuses, for me, it was a reminder. I said to myself, this is August, but we still have so many more months to do so much. So in December, I don't want it to be any excuse for me. And so that's why I titled this No More Excuse. And I find one of the things that stop us the most, the very first thing I find would be fear. I want to say fear is one of the things, and it kind of reminded me of when I was going to start my writer's boot camp earlier this year. I remember when God had said to me, it's time we're doing this year. And I thought, God, am I really ready to do this? What if nobody signs up? What if nobody, is interested? What do I do? And I remember, I think the biggest fears that came to mind were fear of failing, fear of people laughing at me. What if it didn't work and people laughed at me? Fear of people's opinions, people just have their opinion. Fear of just stepping into it and starting it. And so you could be listening to them, you're thinking, I agree with you. There are things that have sought to stop me. In the last 2 episodes, we've spoken about the power of your belief. We've also spoken about no limitations, dear woman. And so this is kind of like in the same line, talking about no excuses are allowed. Because I often remember that there's going to come a day that you and I are going to stand before a maker. And one question he's going to ask you and I is, what did you do with all that I put on the inside of you? He's not going to say, why didn't you do? He's going to ask you. Actually, he's not going to say, why didn't you? He's going to say, but I equipped you. He's just going to say to you, why did you not step into it? Because you're already equipped. And I remember that writer's bootcamp, I was so fearful of starting. I still remember it was so scary. But one big thing I remember that when God said, it's time to do it, start, I knew that this wasn't really about me anymore. This was me just trusting God to start. And so as you listen to this podcast today, where I say no more excuses, your excuse could be fear, such as mine was, those many months ago. And for a lot of things that I do today, often fear comes calling. So people always assume that when you do things, you're not scared, you're not afraid. Often fear will come. But I would say fear is a choice, and faith is also a choice. So now it's up to you. Are you going to choose fear or are you going to choose faith? It's your choice. What are you going to do? And always remember that fear is like a mirage. It's almost like, it's just like the acronym says, false appearance, false evidence appearing real. So it's almost like a mirage whereby it looks like there's water, far off. It looks like, but the closer you move to it, you find out that it's not actually water. It was just a shadow of what water is. That's exactly the same way fear operates. Fear operates like it's real, like something real. But the more you choose faith and you step out, Faith means I'm not trusting in myself that I'm able to do, but I'm going to trust God who has given me the blueprint, who has given me the vision, who has given me the idea, who has called me to do it. I'm just going to trust him and I'm going to follow him and I'm going to let him lead me and I'm going to let him help me. And so often when fear comes, God is saying to you, which are you going to choose? Are you going to choose that I should lead you? Are you going to let me lead you? Are you going to choose to have faith, or are you going to let fear lead you? And every single time is always it's going to be up to you to choose. And I remember those many months ago, it was so easy for me to just say, I'm not doing it. Like, I can't do this. Because what if, like I said, what if nobody signs up? And the same way that Writers Bootcamp could be like any other thing that God has called you to do. He said, go back to school. I want you to start this, but you need to be equipped. And you're like, God, I can't, but I'm too old. Because often I find a lot of people use age as a barrier. So for those of us that use age as a barrier, I want to say to you, no excuses are allowed. No excuses. Because Sarah still had a baby, even at the age that she was. She still had Isaac, and she was happy at the end. She was laughing, she was fulfilled, she was joyful, even as old as she was. So what is that dream? What is that vision? What is that thing that God is calling you to do right now? And you're saying, but I'm too old. I don't think I can do it. I'm not sure if I'm able to step into it. Whatever it is, I want to just encourage you. You know what? Choose to step out in faith. There's a man I remember from the Word of God. His name is Peter. And this guy, whenever I remember his story is so interesting. I always said there were many disciples, but he wasn't the only disciple there. But one thing that Peter did was that Peter was known for. I was actually watching the series with my children a couple of months ago, like the Bible series. And one thing I noticed about him was that he was always eager to say, yes, I'm going to do it. It wasn't that he wasn't there, but he didn't let fear stop him at any point in time. He often spoke before he thought about what he was speaking about. But guess what? He didn't let fear stop him. And he would not let fear stop him. So there was a time whereby Jesus was walking on the water, they were in the boat, and Peter looked up and he thought, oh, Jesus is walking on water. I'm sure in his mind he's thinking, how is this possible? Like, how will we able to do it? This looks impossible. But one thing, he didn't say it was impossible. You know what he did? He asked him, Jesus, he asked if he could come, if he could let him come on the water and walk with him. And just said to him, come. And based on that word, come, guess what he did? He stepped out of the boat. He was the only bold one to step out of the boat on that word come. And as he stepped out, guess what? He had faith. His faith might have been little, but God helped him that as he stepped out, that word of faith, that word come, he stepped out on that word come, and God almost carried him along. And he felt like, what am I doing? But because he trusted God to hold him up in that water, his faith helped him as he walked in the water. And as long as he was focused on the master, as long as he was focused on Jesus, guess what? He did not sink, he did not drown. But as soon as he began to look at the waves, guess what? He began to sink. And I want to just say that to somebody today. God is asking you to do certain things. God is asking you to birth his full potential on the inside of you. And he's saying to you, I have called you to open up that school. I have called you to start that orphanage. I have called you to start that business. I have called you to go back to school so that you can start to impact this set of people. I have called you to start living out your purpose so that other women can be blessed. I have called you to start, a certain thing. I have called you to go out there and reach out to certain of people. I have called you to do this, but all you can see is the boisterous wind, or you can see what people are going to say, or you can see what people are going to tell you. All you can see is how impossible it is. And you just look at what Peter didn't even look at. As long as he didn't look at the waves, as long as he didn't look at the water, he didn't give the excuse of, oh, what if I drown? He didn't give the excuse of, what if, this doesn't work out for me. He just chose to step out. And as long as he chose to do that, to just step out on the water, guess what happened to him? He was walking on the water and he was fine. And really, that is what God is calling you and I to do. Because I found whatever he's asking us to do, the name of this podcast is The More in the Podcast. And it's really talking about how, women are called to be more. There's so much more on the inside of us. There's so much that God has equipped you and I with. There's so much, but I find often we don't even see that more. Often God sees the more in us. And as He sees the more in us, He calls us based on what He sees on the inside of us. He equips us and He calls us out based on what He sees on the inside of us because He wants us to be more. He knows we have the capacity. I find often we don't even see that capacity. We don't even see ourselves doing those things. We don't even see ourselves doing that more. But if we would just yield to His calling, if we would just yield to Him and just say, God, okay, use me. I'm ready. Another person that drops my heart is Mary. Mary is a phenomenal woman of faith. Mary, the mother of Jesus. I know when the angel came to her and said, Mary, you're going to give birth to your son. You are going to call his name Jesus. Everything that they were saying. Remember, Mary was almost like a little over a teenager. She was almost like a young adult. Someone getting ready to get married. In today's world, she had things on her mind. I'm going to have 15 bridesmaids. I'm going to have an awesome wedding. I'm going to do this with Joseph. They had planned their life. They had planned their family. All of a sudden, this was being obstructed. Why? Because this angel. God had a different plan for her. God had a better plan for her. But she didn't even understand the plan. And so for some of us, we don't even understand what God is going to do. But you must not allow any excuse to stop you from what you don't understand. Rather, what you need to do is to align yourself with all that He's calling you to do. So it might be time to just say, I'm going to align myself to God's plan for me. I'm going to align myself to all that God is calling me to do. I don't understand it. I don't know what He's calling me to do. It looks impossible. It looks like, it looks so hard. I have no clue. But I can trust Him to lead me. And I can just step out based on what He's shown me. And because I always tell people, I said, God will never ever give you the full blueprint of what He's calling you to do. You know why? He knows you and I can't handle it. He knows we can't handle it. And so because He knows we can't handle it, He will never give us the full blueprint. But He would call you based on what you can handle right now. So God might just be saying to you, like He said to Peter, come. Peter stepped out on the word come. And then as he stepped out, now the winds, then he became concerned about the winds. But often He wants us to step out first. And as we step out, He's ready to hold our hands. He's ready to show us how to do things. For everything I do today, I tell you, there was never something I could do in my own strength. It was something I could do in my own capacity. But I have just learned over the years to just hold myself and say, God, if you're not going, I'm not going. And if you're not going to help me, I'm not ready to do it myself. But because I know He is the one that equips and He is the one that helps us. He says He's left the Holy Spirit with you so that we can help us. And so I want to encourage someone listening today. Can you just let your helper help you? That is what He's ordained to do. That's what He's designed to do. He's ordained to help you grow the more you have within you. He's ordained to help you live out the more you have within you. He's ordained to help you nurture the more you have within you. And for everything He's calling you to do, it's time to say, I'm not going to give any excuses anymore. I'm not going to give excuse that I have a low self-esteem. I'm not going to give excuse that I'm not qualified to do this. I'm not going to give excuse of I'm fearful. I'm not going to give excuse of, let me say, I don't have the courage to step out. I'm not going to give the excuse of I don't have the resources to do it. All I'm going to just say is, yes, Lord, I'm ready. And as long as I'm ready, guess what? He's always going to be ready. I'm not going to give excuse. The same way, remember I said to you, Peter didn't give that excuse. Peter refused to give the excuse. And so I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not going to give that excuse anymore. I am just going to step out in faith. Whatever He's asking me to do, I'm ready to do it. Is He asking me to write that book? I may not even have what it takes to write that book right now. But as long as I say yes, so I remember, I think it was the year 2020, going into 2021. I heard God say to me, it was actually on the very last day of the year, it was the 31st of December. And I remember Him saying to me, this year we're going into, which was 2021, is going to be business as directed. It's not going to be business as usual. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And I remember Him saying to me, it means I'm going to lead you. I'm going to direct you. I'm going to show you. And I want you to, all you have to do is follow. So for somebody listening to the God is saying to you, I'm just here to challenge you, saying to you, all you just need to do is follow. I'm not asking you to have blueprints. I'm not asking you to know how to do it. all I want you to do is follow. Is it to start that business? All I want you to do is just start with what you have. It's so important for us to just start where we are with what we have. What is God coming to do? What is He asking you to do right now? How can you just start where you are with what you have without giving the excuse of, oh, I don't have the resources. Oh, maybe He's calling to start a cake business. Oh, but I don't have any things to make cakes with. What do you have in your kitchen that you used to make your cakes? Would that be maybe you could start with that? And then as you start, guess what? He's going to supply you with every single thing you need. Maybe He's saying to you, I need to take you to a next level, in your career, but I need you to take those 2 courses. And you're like, but God, they're just too hard. I've tried and I just can't get it done. Maybe that's what He's saying to you. And you're like, I don't think I'm ready. This is too hard. I can't do this, Maybe, but all He just wants to do is what? Step into it and just agree to start. So I don't know why I keep going on that particular point. But for some of us, it might not even be fair. For some of us, it's just comparison. We compare ourselves with other people. We're like, oh, but that person is doing so well. Oh, but I'm not even doing as good as that person. I always say to people, you're not running the same race. I used to run in high school, and I was sharing a couple of, I think it was last week, about one of the lessons that have stuck with me in all my, through my running, and I just love learning. I learn a lot from athletes. One of the lessons that have stuck with me is, as long as you're called to run, if you're put in lane 2 and you don't stay in lane 2, you start looking, you're in lane 2, but you're looking at, oh man, you're in lane 3. And even instead of focusing on, the very end of the race, instead of focus on the finishing line, I was sharing that as long as you're doing that, eventually, guess what's going to happen? Even when then the button goes for you to go, if you keep looking over lane 3, eventually you're going to stray into lane 3, and eventually you're going to get disqualified, and you might even lose out on getting any place at all, or lose out on the race completely. That is how a lot of people live our life. Comparing themselves to the person in lane 3. Instead of focusing on the finish line, you're like, oh, I can't do as well as the person in lane 3, but their business is better than mine. And I always say to them, but are you running the same race? You might be running, for a prize, but you're not running. You don't have the same capacity. You don't have the same blueprint. You don't have the same build. You don't even have the same anything, really. Every one of us is unique. And so because we're unique, we are called to run a unique race. And I always tell people that you're running your race against you. And God is going to judge you against you. He's going to ask you about all those gifts He put on the inside of you. And you said, God, I thought they were too small. I know a really beautiful parable that my favorite parable in the Word of God is the parable of the talents. And I can never forget how the Word of God calls that guy the wicked servant. Why? If you don't know the story, it was the parable of 3 talents. The master gave them, talents to trade with. And then one of them, 2 of them traded, and then the last one didn't trade. And as, he eventually, the master said, oh, could you have put the money in the bank? He said, no, because you're a wicked man. I just buried it. I did not trade with it. I find that's how a lot of us. So his excuse was that he didn't need to trade it. The master wasn't worth it. So instead of making it profitable, he decided to bury it instead. And the exact same thing can be said about a lot of us. And so I want to encourage one thing. You don't want to get to the end of your life, and then God says to you, you know what, you're a wicked servant because you didn't trade with what I gave you. You didn't count it worthy. And so for everything He has equipped you with, He's called you and I to do what? To bring it to our world. He's called those people that need what He gave you. He doesn't waste resources. And so for every resource He has given you, there is someone that needs that resource at that level at which you have it. Fine, you can tweak it as you go along. I keep on saying this, I say it all the time. But if iPhone had started with iPhone 13 or iPhone Pro Max, we would not even have what we have today. They started with the regular iPhone, went to iPhone 2, iPhone 4, iPhone 6, iPhone 8, and kept on going. And today we have iPhone 13 Pro Max as well. So start where you are and what you have. Don't give the excuse that it's not good enough, it's not refined enough, it's not big enough. It's not as big as ABC. Mine is so small. Nobody might notice me. I'm not significant. You don't want to use those words at all, because guess what? You are special. You are chosen, significant. You are one of a kind. And God is counting on everything He gave you. And so in this podcast, my challenge to you is no excuses given. So if you're someone that has been given excuses, maybe this is 2022, maybe it might be time to get up. If you have to write a book, write it. If you're set up for a course, sign up for it. If you have to go back to school, whatever you need to do. If you haven't even been using your gifts at all, your talents at all, you haven't even used any of it, you haven't done anything with your potential, it might be time to start discovering. You haven't even discovered what your potential is. Questions I want to ask you, some of the questions I want to ask you is, what are the things that you love to do? What are you passionate about? What has God called you to do? What are the gifts that He's put on the inside of you? Those are just the beginning questions. There are so many questions that you can ask. And if you feel like you need help even with this, then send me a DM. I'm only a DM away. I always help you. You can send me a DM on Instagram. I am Oluwalabadu. That's my Instagram handle. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me a message on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can, if you need to find out how to start to discover what that God has put inside of you. But really, it's a challenge to me. There's so much more in you, and God is counting on you. And so you must decide that you're not going to allow any excuse. Because guess what? There's going to come a day they're going to stand before Him, and you're going to have to explain what you did with everything He put on the inside of you. And I hope it wouldn't be that you get the answer, you wicked servant. Rather, it will be that you get the answer, well done, good and faithful servants. So that's my 2 cents today. Have an amazing week ahead. I'll see you again next week.